know, you guys have all seen the pictures with the giant steel thing that's inside of it, and getting the sculpting done on the surface of the tree, which was another whole thing that, you know, you have this great idea and then you realize, okay, the whole tree is a work of art. It's all about what the tree looks like. It's covered with animal forms and tigers and wildebeests and birds and blah, 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 all this great stuff. And we're going to sculpt that all over the tree. Well, anyone out there with an art background knows that when you're creating a work of art, you need to be able to see it. But to build it, you have to build scaffolding to get up and work on it. And of course, the scaffolding to build the tree is so thick, you can't see the tree. So we're constantly trying to imagine. I mean, we're like right up on top of this tree for a year and a half trying to imagine, oh my God, I wonder what this thing's going to look like when we drop all this scaffolding down, because, you know, we're not going to get much of a chance to learn, and we just, frankly, you know, worked very, very hard. They're very skillful artists. A lot of the work on the Tree of Life was done by real professional sculptors who did a fantastic job of bringing it to life. I'll talk about one other thing. I'm trying to go through some of these ideas very carefully. Remember that we did a lot of research. We traveled all over the world doing the research to make Animal Kingdom for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is just that we knew that this park needed to feel like reality, really feel like reality. And when you build a three-dimensional place, it's not the same as a picture. It can be very deceptive. If you go to a coffee table book and you think about, let's just picture Venice, Italy. Beautiful place, lovely place, people go there on vacation. If I had the job of doing a coffee table book on Venice, Italy, there's all these layers that happen by the time that coffee table book shows up. Some photographer goes to Venice, Italy. He makes personal choices about what's going to make a good photograph. Not what Venice, Italy feels like, but what's going to make a good photograph that he can put in a book to sell in his book about Venice, Italy. So he's taking all these photographs and looking not for the essence of Venice, Italy, but for those photographs which you can take, which might evoke some qualities that are editorial about Venice, Italy. Then he goes to a publisher who says, well, you've got 75,000 photographs here. I'm going to use 300 of them. I like these. These will make a good book. We put that into a book. There's only so many of them. They're sold in so many bookstores. You know, you're way down at the bottom of this upside-down pyramid of information by the time you get a book in your hand about a subject. When you go to a real place and have real experiences with real people in that place, you come away with a very immediate, holistic sensation of what is it like to be there. And the experiences that we have then become the foundation for the feelings that we try to incorporate into this thing. Even with Everest, we came away with this, all the prayer flags. That was added rather late, because when we went finally to the area of the Himalayas that it was based on, I'd been there before, but even I had not really thought through how much you feel the wind in these areas. And the reason you feel is because there's just these prayer flags everywhere, and they respond to the movement of air, and they give it a whole atmosphere. So this idea of traveling to go to these places, to have experiences, and to personally collect those details which you need to tell your version of the story is part of what I think makes Animal Kingdom have that funny, unique quality of feeling so weirdly kind of real. It also helps you realize there are things you cannot do. These are photographs we took in the Serengeti on our very first trip to Africa, which immediately made it clear, look, we can't do this. You would need hundreds of square miles, you can't do this. If you lived in Kansas, you could do this. We're not in Kansas, so we're not doing this. We went and looked for other photographs that we also took in Africa, where we said, okay, we could do that. That looks like something we could do. So let's focus on that. So we start looking through the photographs, culling through these photographs, trying to figure out what kind of environment can we create that would be based on something real that fits our narrative needs. We'd make notes and we'd add things up, and as you guys know, eventually we come up with these techniques to mimic the qualities of the environment that we saw in the real places we went to. But it is a very, very designed environment. Africa, for example, I was just out there yesterday with this safari guide, and we're driving around. And you know, we all know there's like 35 trucks out there driving around, right? And you never really see more than maybe 3 or 4 at a time. And part of that is because of the very, very deliberate design that we put into Africa from the very beginning. We did some of the very first digital modeling for large landscape firms that was ever done at this scale. It took us days to print out one shot like this from these rooms of computers that we're sending all the data into. Now you do this in SketchUp, take you an hour and a half. But if you look closely at the design plan for Africa, you'll notice all these little humps, the little shadow and highlight humps, like on a relief map. And those humps are set in place just like the walls in a scene between scene, like in Pirates of the Caribbean. You know, as you ride through Pirates of the Caribbean, you don't realize that you're kind of looping back and forth through an architectural environment from room to room, because the walls and the scenes of the rooms prevent you from being aware of all the other boats and all the other rooms and all the other scenes. And the African safari was designed the same way, so that when it was finally executed, when it was done, you wouldn't really understand how it laid out, and you wouldn't be aware of the reality of what it is. We're not trying to present you with the reality of what it is. You're supposed to be inside a story about being in a safari camp in Africa. So, you know, we would do the renderings, expressing kind of where we wanted the story to go. Another problem we came up against, which is kind of interesting, and you know, a lot of these pictures I don't know have been seen before. They're just kind of stuff I pulled from the file. But so we knew, unlike a scene in a ride where you can direct people to look over here, we knew 2 things. 1, you can look wherever you please. And number 2, we will never know where the focal object is going to be, which is an animal. The animal could be anywhere, and you can look anywhere. So when we did our storyboards, every 30 seconds, we drew a line on the ride track, estimated the average speed of the vehicle, made a dot every 30 seconds, and we drew these 180-degree storyboards that we would hold up in front of our faces like this, and go, okay, that's at, you know, second number 700. We're here seeing something like this. The wildebeest might all be over here, they might all be over here, but they're going to be here in this scene. Okay, pick up the next one, you know, and we bend it around our head and go, all right, this is the next scene. So we can get some sense of what is this going to be like to progress through this environment, because of course back then there wasn't, like, you couldn't do a digital ride-through or something, no such thing existed. And then, of course, how successful are we going to be at everything we know, keeping the guests from knowing those things, so that what they see and what they feel is completely natural in its feeling. This is a photograph I took during production of the Flamingo Pool, and this is virtually the same view from the guest point of view as they drive by on the ride track. So this feels like nature, and of course, you know, those flamingos have to be able to stay there. They have to not have to worry that, you know, animals are going to come get them. They have to have a safe life on a little island where they can raise their babies, and yet we don't want you to feel that. We want you to feel that, wow, I'm in Africa, and there happen to be some flamingos over there. So we're trying to sort of bury the work that we did. This is just another example of starting from a real experience. In this case, you know, we have the gibbons who are on the islands, you know, in Asia, and we know that they need something to swing on and climb on. That's what they want to do. They live in trees. So we're trying to figure, well, what in the world can we possibly build that doesn't look like a jungle gym, that makes sense out of an environment where these gibbons would be climbing and playing and blah, blah, blah. And we just happened on one of our research trips to see this temple under restoration. The one in the upper left-hand corner, that's a real temple in Nepal under restoration. And that became the inspiration for what we ultimately built as the gibbon temples, because it solved the problem that, frankly, we didn't know how to solve until we came across this example. It's another interesting thing about the work we did is just working with all these different people from around the world, working with Balinese carvers, working with the bronze casters in Nepal, working with all these different individuals from different cultures. It's a real privilege with Animal Kingdom to be able to do that. And to see the work of all these people turned into something that not only, you know, is it a beautiful theme park environment, but it has a kind of reality of its own. More than just, oh, beautiful design, you know, a bunch of, you know, designers in California thought it up, drew it, got built in a factory somewhere. There really is real art in Animal Kingdom. And Everest, which of course is the most recent, is one of the best examples of that, I think, in the park. And Everest has these ancient roots. This actually, if I have this image here. This is a painting from, I did this in 1991. And it is a view from pretty much where Flame Tree is now, looking out across the water to what Everest is now, only that's Bhutan instead of Nepal.